Hello and welcome to the LMO Scenario Moment. My name is Aaron Spears.
I'm Brad Hathcock. Welcome back, 2026, baby.
Welcome back. Your audio is a little weird. I think we'll push through.
Is it terrible?
It's echoey and
It's
tinny.
still.
Yeah,
I wonder if it's the room I'm in, but I haven't had that problem in here before.
it's her mic.
Interesting.
Or it could be my headset. I don't know.
It's probably your headset.
All right, well, we're starting a little late. Later than normal. I guess we finally found out what Venezuela was up to.
Yeah, getting fucking destroyed by the U.S.
I'm old Saint Nick Maduro today.
I'm still Bradley Hathcock.
Um, Last time we recorded, we weren't really sure what was going on there. And
No, it was just bombing drug boats and um, what taking oil tankers.
yeah, and so they went in and killed 32 Cuban guards, which tells you everything you need to know about that country. That the Cubans were the ones protecting Maduro and pulled him out with like minimal injuries. That was quite shocking.
Yeah, he actually was in court in New York, I believe. Um, Last week or the week before, maybe.
You see who's staying at that Arkham Asylum of villains? Kind of like everybody. Everybody bad in America's there.
Of course. Well, we're not allowed to send people to CCOT anymore, so
What is
you
CCOT?
know, it's a high security prison in where is that? Fuck, what country's that in?
It's not in America even.
No, it's not even in America. But ultimately, it's just this like high security prison where they take like Trende Aragua and MS-13 members and things like that, and um, they apparently actually that Nick Shirley guy who was exposing all that allegedly exposing all of the fraud there in Minnesota also went to CCOT. And he said they have the lights on 24/7, so they never get to sleep in like the dark.
Hmm.
And I think none of them have shirts on and stuff like that. Usually, that's what you see when you see videos from CCOT. And when they walk them around, they handcuff their hands behind their back, and then they force them to walk like heads down, basically like hunched over and stuff like that. It's not supposed to be a great place to go.
Well, I doubt the place that this Maduro went to was any better. I think that's the jail where Epstein killed himself, or somebody else.
They could have been roomies had Epstein, not killed himself allegedly.
I'm looking forward to the conspiracy theories around how this is all tied together somehow.
I'm sure it will be.
So that was kind of the big story before, but since then we've just been watching Iran, and I think Iran. I feel bad for those people. I really do because it sucks, and I mean they said they killed upwards of 20,000 people. 12,000 was the estimate. Obviously, going to be higher. I don't know how you get good numbers out of there ever, but it looks
It's
like
funny.
we
It's like
pulled back.
it's such a wild time just because everything's popping off right now. So, like obviously with Maduro and everything, which even John Fetterman was like, "Why would I be super mad?" Like the Biden administration had actually put a $25 million bounty on Maduro, right? And so now Democrats are like super mad that it happened, and they're like, "Well, he was an elected official. He wasn't really. They did elect somebody else, I believe, but he was just staying in power because he was a dictator." Venezuelans are super happy. They were celebrating in the streets, popping champagne at 2 o'clock in the morning, and all this other shit. Like after it happened, and Democrats are like, "This is awful. We can't be, overthrowing dictators," which we've been doing for fucking what 100 years. So, like, just doesn't make sense. Like they are just such an opposition party that even something that their base of voters would want, or wanted, they can't even support. Like because it's Donald Trump did it. Like that's how fucking sick this is, right? Um, you have people protesting outside the courthouse where Maduro is uh, being arraigned and everything, saying that free Maduro, and all this other shit. And like some of the more stupid people sitting there actually defending him, saying he was like good for the people of Venezuela and shit like that. And most people don't realize that Venezuela was a very rich country, and
The
especially
richest,
like
maybe in
yeah,
South
one of the
America.
richest in South America with all the oil, and they have like different minerals and um, mining and stuff like that that they have capability for. And then Chavez, right? Hugo Chavez came along
With the
and
Chavistas.
yeah, nationalized everything, and they quickly became one of the poorest countries there over like 30 some years. And that was one of the best parts, I think, of Trump bombing Venezuela was like he bombed Hugo Chavez's mausoleum. So like
Maybe.
just to
We're
like
unclear now.
yeah, so maybe that's unclear, but still, if he did, that is just super petty, and I'm totally here for it because he basically was like, "Fuck socialism, let me blow up this mausoleum," and but like I said, Fetterman actually kind of praised it a little bit. He goes, "Well, no civilians died, like." They got a dictator out of a country, and he said all the Venezuelans want this. They want this freedom, and for some reason Democrats have to fight against it just because it was Trump. And now move forward to like Iran, all of a sudden the Iranians are protesting and now rioting and burning things down. They shut internet down to try and prevent information from leaking out, but people are getting photos and video out via Starlink and stuff like that. And they want to overthrow the Ayatollah, right? That's the
Yeah.
Ayatollah there. They want to overthrow the Ayatollah. And he said that he would kill more people. They already killed 12,000. And what was funny was Trump Trump said, well, what happened was a reporter approached Trump and said, "Oh, Ayatollah Khamenei says that like regionally we will attack American citizens if you intervene in any capacity, and it will be very bad for the U.S." And Trump was like, "Yeah, he said that before. We bombed the shit out of him, and he didn't do anything."
Yeah, we killed Soleimani.
Exactly. So it's quite an interesting time in world politics,
Well,
specifically.
I think it's a bad. It's a really bad look when people get upset that Maduro himself was removed from power because Maduro was a really bad dude. And I don't know if people know that, like in Venezuela, the state owns all communication. They own the television stations, which he had a show on, and radio stations, and there is no like freedom of information in Venezuela. And to say you could make the argument that doing that is bad, and that one I'll hear out. To say we shouldn't extract people without like without like Congress saying so, that's one thing. To say that it's a shame Maduro isn't in power is just a lack of knowledge about any of it, because you know a third of the Venezuelan population has actually left the country since Hugo Chavez took over, and I bet those people would like to go back there. The only reason they left is because the country went into shambles, and they were jailing political dissidents and nationalizing concrete and stuff like that. So, I think you're right to say like the Venezuelans are happy about it, and I don't know why people ignore that part of it. Um, so yeah, I'll hear out the part where we shouldn't go into Venezuela and remove the guy, but I will not like just stand by and say like, oh, I can't believe poor Maduro, who it's like what?
So I I would have to kind of, I think, push back on that just
Please
a little
do.
bit, right? So you know how I feel about going into sovereign nations and doing things. That's not really my style, but you know, Obama flew into what, Pakistan, like a sovereign nation, and got Osama bin Laden out. Sure, he was considered a terrorist, but I believe you could make the same argument about Maduro. Trump has, calling him a narco terrorist. He's like the head of a cartel, essentially. Like Maduro runs a cartel, and so did he do all of this under the guise of drugs? Probably. Is that 100% true? Not likely. I think they actually brought Maduro up on some kind of like illegal gun charges, of him having like automatic weapons or something like that he wasn't supposed to have. Like they're getting him on who knows what. But we've done that before. Okay, it's not like the first time, and nobody fucking complained when they killed Osama bin Laden. And they
It's a
didn't
huge
even kill
problem.
Maduro. They just took him and they're putting him on trial. They're essentially parading him in front of the world. And I think it's I think it's a sign. Like I forget who was saying this, but it's basically like pointing to the U.S. is the Western Hemisphere influence. Fuck off. Like stay away, right? And so because Russia had heavy influence in Venezuela, China had heavy influence in Venezuela, and I think it's the US signaling like that's done. Like we're done with that now. So
That's the argument that convinced me because I had told you before, like I wasn't sure about it, and
do
I
you remember
needed
who
to
said it?
know.
I
Uh,
can't remember who said it. I just recently heard that somebody made that connection. That ultimately it's the U.S. saying like this is our fucking hemisphere. Like we
Abrams,
run the influence here.
Elliot Abrams, who was, I think, the envoy in the first administration, he's the one who said it on this podcast I was listening to, and he talked about it for about 35 minutes. That, you know, why is it okay that Russia and China and Iran have influence in Venezuela with Hezbollah hosting their like training camps on an island somewhere in Venezuela? Why why is that okay? Why didn't we do anything about it other than sanctions? And how long were we going to just let that go on for in our own hemisphere? And that's where I was convinced Maduro had to go, and everybody agrees Maduro had to go. You don't have to look to this administration for. You just have to look to the last one, like you pointed out. They put a bounty on him. They increased the bounty actually, and
It was 25 mil.
yeah, it was 25 million. So I'm sitting
So
here
does
watching.
Trump get to collect that? That'd be
I
so funny because then it's like he's profiting from the presidency.
I mean, there's like a lot of things I don't like about the idea that he did it, but to not celebrate Maduro being gone, I think is you can't do that and not know what you just can't know what you're talking about because
Well, I think this is one of the things where people don't want you to have your cake and eat it too. Where, like, you can't be like, well, it was a bad thing that he kind of did it, but, like, you can't be mad he's gone, right? Like,
apparently you can, but I don't
and
agree with it.
no, I mean, you can disagree with how he did it and, my kind of, anti interventionist kind of situation that I truly believe in. But how else are you going to overthrow dictators? The problem is that you can run into, and this hasn't happened in Venezuela yet, but you can run into a situation like in Libya, which, again, was Obama. But instead of sending people there, he sent weapons to rebels there. And what did they do? They overthrew Gaddafi, shoved a knife up his asshole, and now it's like a failed state. Like, so some people might make the argument that it was at least good to have Gaddafi there because it wasn't a failed state, and now they have like some of the most, like, I guess, horrific living conditions. They have slave sales like right in the streets and things like that. So that wasn't necessarily happening under Gaddafi, I guess. Um, but are people happy Gaddafi's gone? Probably.
I mean, I certainly think it's fine that he's gone, but the outcome, like you said, was not worth what we did.
I
Um,
think the part of the problem with Venezuela is the vice president that was still there under Maduro is now, I think, sworn in as
so,
president.
and that means it wasn't about a dictatorship being removed or toppled, because if
It
you
was
just put the
just
next,
about him.
well, and
But
and so
supposedly the Trump administration has sent demands to this vice president basically saying you better be pro like America or probably we're going to fuck you. So, I don't know.
I mean, I talked to two different people who are coming at this from the other side, and their gut instinct is to be upset about it. And I had trouble talking to them about why it wasn't all bad, and they really struggled with it. They were both like, man, this is just a bad look. And I'm like, man, you just woke up a year ago, because this is like something that we have done in the past, and it's not unusual. And his wife was the head of the cartel, so and
Right.
he this person I talked to was actually kind of upset that she got injured during the extraction.
So I
And
think what's kind of interesting about this is we had conversations early on when obviously Trump was just like blowing up fishing boats and taking oil tankers, right? You're like,
they weren't telling us anything, so we had nothing
right,
to go
but
off of.
you were like, why should we give a fuck about Venezuela? And I kind of explained it a little bit to you why Venezuela like matters, at least from my knowledge, which obviously isn't like that
I
deep,
I
right? Like
want to
I'm not
say
a
I
fucking Venezuelan expert, but you're basically like, why should anybody care?
no, I abstained from it until I knew what I was talking about, because
Right.
I wasn't provided with evidence that we were doing anything legal.
No, but you asked why. Like it was actually an
For
inquisitive
sure.
thing on your part. Like it's we didn't argue about it. It's not like you and I saw things differently. You just kind of asked about it, and I gave you some of the information that I knew offhand. And so that obviously helps. But now you've done more. Like you've listened to podcasts. You listen to people who are very knowledgeable about Venezuela and stuff like that. And
I hashtag looked into it.
right. Even some of the like most staunch people who like hate Donald Trump, not necessarily Democrats, but just like won't support him, were like, yeah, this was kind of a good thing. Like, it's hard
That's it.
to sit here and say it was a bad thing.
He didn't help his case, because immediately after he talked about the oil, and he said, and we've talked about the oil before. The oil is not something that's like, you can't just get an oil company to go there and do business. That's not how it works. It takes decades to build up the infrastructure and to even refine the oil. We've talked about that before, because it's in like sand, and it like bubbles out of the ground. It's like everywhere in Venezuela.
So
And
they do that in Canada.
they do.
Sand extraction for oil. They do that in Canada, and then they send it here to the United States.
I'm not saying it's impossible to be done. I'm just saying, like, that is not the first thing you should mention when you say you've done this, because it makes everybody sound like you're trying to make a play for oil,
Right.
and that's not really what's going on here. I mean, they could try.
It is. So I sent you an article before we said we were going to podcast tonight, and Trump just sold the first $500 million worth of oil from Venezuela.
That could be just
And
a
so
deal that was made. You
you and
know,
I, you and I had talked about how these oil companies they don't want to invest in Venezuela, all this other stuff. From what I'm reading, these oil companies are like, well, we don't want to invest there if things don't change economically. Like they want socialism out of Venezuela, and after that, they would be more than happy to. It seems to me like from what I was reading, these companies are fearful that there's gonna be nationalization of the oil again, and then all of their investment will have failed because of that. It seems that they are willing to invest there. There's a lot of money to be made, but only if they can fix obviously socialist situation down there.
Well, I mean, when they nationalized the oil industry the first time, American companies, some of them pulled out and some of them didn't. So Exxon was like, you know what, we're getting out of here, and Chevron was like, we'll stay. And I think if you make the case for our oil, you could make the argument that the shareholders of ExxonMobil were robbed of money because everything that they had there they lost because of Chavez, and that Chevron did something kind of bad actually, and they stayed there. And so Exxon's like, we were never made whole in Venezuela. And then you ask them, well, would you go back to Venezuela? And like you just said, they said, well, no, because if we do, we could lose it again. And
Right.
so yeah, it's not something that's going to be fixed overnight, regardless of if Maduro's gone. But
Correct. And that's what somebody asked Marco Rubio, like, okay, well, there's still like five people there that kind of are from that narco state. Like, why didn't you grab them? And he was like, do you have any idea how difficult it is to grab five or six people, let alone one? And he goes, so you just wanted us to what, stay there for a few days and like possibly get people killed and all this other shit? Like,
the logistics of it were crazy. We used like 150 aircraft, and
right,
also the Cubans were guarding him. Not That's how little he trusts his own people, that he doesn't even have Venezuelans guarding him. And by the way, Cuba is a conversation for next week, I guess, because who knows what's going to happen there. I mean, Venezuela was giving all their oil to Cuba, so the Cuban economy's.
but arguably, if you're going to take over Cuba, what is it for? It ain't oil. Is it for like classic car parts?
Yeah, there's nothing there, and so yeah, I mean, if the regime in Cuba falls, I would be okay with that too, and because by virtue of this happening, same thing with Iran. I mean, the thing is, all three of these countries are tied together, and there's, I don't know that Iran's going to fall, because right now, as we're recording this, we didn't take any kinetic action on the ground there,
Right.
or from the air. And so those people who got shot in the head by snipers on roofs, demanding freedom, the Iranian regime may have bought themselves time just by saying, okay, we're not going to do any public executions for right now. And word is Israel was like, hey, maybe don't do that now, because I think the fear was Iran would just overwhelm Iron Dome again. And so it's like this really complicated situation, but you
What do
feel.
they care? We'll pay to replace all the missiles.
I said overwhelm. I didn't say they could.
What do they care?
I mean, the last time Iran hit them, it did cause a lot of damage. So Iran this is as good a time as any. Obama also had the opportunity to support the Iranian people. He did not. And what happened was they continued to proliferate.
Didn't he fly like truckloads of cash to Iran? Something like that?
Yes. Oh
Yeah,
my God.
yeah, right, right. He flew like a couple pallets of cash to Iran, something like that.
So I'm
So
sitting
how
here
is that
thinking,
helping the Iranian people?
yes, and this is another opportunity where you could help the Iranian people to take their country back from this theocratic regime. And I just think that like that time might be slipping away now. And if it gets worse again there, that's where the decision not to act will matter the most.
Dude, and the thing is, the like Iranians who live here in the U.S. are out protesting, saying like, we want intervention in Iran. Like,
Yeah.
we believe that it will be better if the U.S. intervenes and gets Khamenei out of there. Like,
It doesn't have to be. Khamenei could go to Russia, right? Like, they've already transferred like their money over to Dubai and everything. So like,
why is that the move, by the way? Like, why is everybody leaving for Russia? Like, it's cold and shitty there.
I think that's the only place they can go without getting fucked up. Just my guess.
Yeah, they might just go there and get thrown out of a window.
Well, Assad's playing Call of Duty every day now, so Khamenei can go join him. But regardless, like, you miss this opportunity, and you might have another historical miss, and I'm worried about that, because Iran's influence is as low as it's ever been. They have decimated all of their proxies. I don't know that people understand the scale of Iran's influence everywhere, including South America
Dude,
and in
if Iran
China.
falls, that directly benefits Israel. Like, you will see, assuming they install the right regime there, an instant defunding of Hezbollah, um, Hamas, and what's the other one in Yemen?
The Houthis.
The Houthis. Like, you'll immediately see their money dwindle down.
Well,
Like,
that's what I'm saying. Is like they're right now they're at their weakest they've ever been. All three of those groups, and so and there's this like this thing online where people are like, oh, this is Israel trying to get more land. Iran's 900 miles away. They don't want all they want is for Iran to leave them alone. And Israel and the Iranian people are not a problem here. What is a problem is who's in charge and the theocracy there.
right. I think even, like, however anybody feels, regardless of, like, the whole Israel-Gaza situation, like, Iran changing of the guard and regime here, whatever you want, is a net positive in the Middle Eastern influence. So, like, thinking more towards what was that, like the Abraham Accords, right? Where
Yeah.
it kind of like brought some stability to the Middle East, and that gets disrupted by Iran. That could bring more stability. You could see further adoption of like the Abraham Accords and things like that. And who knows, maybe actually have some level of peace in the Middle East. But for how long, I guess would be the question.
I mean, think about it this way: we've seen these people. Everybody's brain has rotted to the point where every time something happens, they go straight to Israel. We see it on the right and on the left. Is you know who else doesn't want Iran to be like the way it is? Saudi Arabia and the UAE and Oman and all these other countries in the region who are like, we're so fucking sick of this shit, and it's not Israel, it's everybody there. They're all fed up with it.
Oh, absolutely. It's a net positive. I can admit that, being as not an interventionist as I am, it's a net positive. And if the Iranian people can bring Khomeini down, then great. Like, if we don't have to do anything. Although I did say to you, I highly suspect that these protests and riots started because of some kind of like CIA or Mossad intervention. So
I don't know that
it doesn't matter, no. But
I you know
it's likely.
so the more realistic one, thing that happened was just that people are fed up because the water sucks in Tehran. They were thinking about moving the capital because there's just no water. They're not heating the buildings, and they closed all the schools because they couldn't keep them warm. I mean, people are generally just upset, and there's the merchants who run the bazaars. They were the ones who were getting really fed up too because the money's not worth anything there now right now. And
No.
so
I
if you
think
piss,
I think I said to you, like, uh, what is it? $1 is like 1.5 million real or something.
it's crazy. And if you piss off the merchant class, they were the ones who were kind of supporting the regime in the first place. So if you lose them, you lose that support too. And I think I sat here for 2 years and I watched people demonstrate against Israel about Gaza. And there was Iran pulled to Gaza in like a week and a half. They killed so many people there. And it's just like, I mean, I'm just pissed off at people who are upset about that one thing. And now that that's over, supposedly, we're supposed to just ignore everything that's going on.
Well, it's just so funny because obviously, like, the left is like, oh, war powers, war powers, war powers. Well, where the fuck have you been for the last 30 years? Oh, wait, that's right. Kicking power down the fucking road to the fucking executive branch, reauthorizing the AUMF. Like, what the fuck are you people talking about? Like,
I'm so frustrated
this is
with it.
your doing. You've given Trump basically carte blanche to do this, and now that it's coming back to bite you in the ass, you're like, well, we need to rein in the president. You needed to do that 30 fucking years ago.
They called
Like-
Mitt Romney a Nazi. Mitt Romney. And now here we are. And I'm also just really upset because like that you go to the New York Times or the Washington Post, and you do not see any articles on what's happening in Iran. And then if you go and you look at the reporting on Gaza, they reported every fucking number, no matter what, if it was verified or not, if it came from propaganda outlets in the Strip, they reported it. With Iran, it's like, well, the regime says this, and that's that. And you can't find a fucking story about it. And it's like these people, they don't believe in human rights and genocide. They just believe in the one thing, the omni cause, which was climate change and all this other stuff. They don't care about the Iranian people despite them being killed there.
Now, do you think it's a little bit more difficult because they can't inherently get journalists into Iran?
No,
Like,
I don't.
They shut all that shit down.
Yeah, you're right, and there is some of that, but I still think Trey Yangst on Fox News reports from Tel Aviv all the time about what's going on in Iran. So he's got sources there. We get images out of there. The Iranian people are really tech savvy. We're not talking about like a backwater country. There is like infrastructure there.
Yeah.
But I'm bringing up instances of like Iran because I'm bringing up instances of the Uyghur genocide in China too. Like they ignore everything that's bad in the world except for the one thing. And it just, to me, it just drives me insane. I don't know.
No, I agree with you. And you know how you and I just like to purposely fight and take like opposition on things, but I think that generally you and I are in agreement over Venezuela and Iran. Like, it's a net positive.
I'm not happy with.
Absolutely.
I don't know what's going to happen with Venezuela down the road. I don't know that I love everything about it, but I'm not upset that Maduro's not there. Iran, I mean, it's a different situation. I've been thinking about following Iran, watching it since I was a kid. You see the Iranian soldiers in their white outfits in the late 80s. I mean, this has been an issue for 50 years now. And
It is different because, like, in Venezuela, there's a money component, right? Like, we are selling Venezuelan oil. Like,
we fucking
there's a
are.
money component to it for the U.S., and apparently those funds are being split between Venezuela, the U.S., and oil companies. So that's probably the okay, like, here, we gave you some money, look at what we can accomplish, like, go in there and start taking that oil, you know what I mean? And the left is crying about that. They're like, well, how did these oil executives know more about this whole thing in Venezuela than Congress? And so, like, obviously Pocahontas Elizabeth Warren is like complaining, like, we need to start talking to Trump, and like, about what? It's over.
I really.
Maduro is gone. He is sitting in a fucking prison cell. There's nothing you can do. What are you going to do? Release him and send him back?
Are you going to deport him?
To where? Well, you can't deport him, right? I mean,
We can't do that.
we don't like deporting people, so
We don't like that.
You can't deport him. What are you going to do? Give him a fucking penthouse? He can live next to Mom Donnie.
I mean, the thing that's crazy, and the right's doing it too. And they're
Donnie
doing
probably
it.
give him a job.
I mean, yeah, we do.
He'll be
We
the
do
deputy
forgive.
mayor of fucking New York soon.
I think he becomes the mayor now. That's how that works. It's just like you sit back and you think about all these people that are upset about it, and then for them to be upset about Iran would be like, that'd be like defending Kim Jong Un at that point. You're just like, I can't believe we're doing this again. I do
People
think
just need shit to complain about, dude.
I think they check out when the party they like isn't in power because they just ignore so much precedent. And I sit there and I listen to it. I don't correct anybody because nobody's
What's the
gonna.
point? Right.
Yeah, nobody's.
Right.
Gonna, I'm not gonna convince anybody of anything. But like when you're upset that like, but Maduro's wife got her ribs broken, I'm like, you're upset about that? Like, I will not listen to a protester against this in the United States over the voice of somebody who lives on the ground in those countries. And I think that's probably healthy for going forward for any country. Like,
I agree.
I'm not going to be upset if South Korean people are like, the guy tried to overthrow the government, we should execute him. I'm not going to sit here and listen to a protester about, here in the States, but
Let's also not forget that people on the left were excited by the fact that Mom Donnie said he would arrest Bibi Netanyahu if he set foot in New York.
Oh, you mean there's somebody on the left who wants to arrest somebody who's a elected leader of a country?
Exactly.
Wow,
So
that's crazy.
see how quickly they context switch between being happy about what's ultimately the same fucking thing. Like, I mean,
All you have to do is hate everybody equally, and you'll never have to apologize for a fucking thing, because I'll never have to apologize for the fact that we did this. Not
yeah,
that I've agreed with...
that's what you and I do here. We just generally hate everyone and everything.
Stop picking a side.
And then we'll change our mind later, I guess.
I think we should probably turn towards Minneapolis, or Minnesota rather, because Minnesota is the main character in America, and I don't know why this happened. I don't know what something happened like 25 years ago, and I wasn't paying attention, and now it's the center of every fucking thing in America, and it's crazy. So this woman was fatally shot in Minneapolis, yeah.
Yes,
In the suburbs.
So. Mm-hmm.
And it was a terrible incident, and it was one of those things, just like I'll compare it to Ashley Babbitt, right? Two people who should not have been where they were, and law enforcement reacted, and they were living in a fantasy world. I truly believe this, because you read online, you see all the videos, you're like, we got to stand up against ICE. That's what they're believing. That's what they're being fed. And then they actually do it, and it's like, oh, fuck. Those are real bullets. I think the woman, her wife on the video literally said, I can't believe you use real ammunition. And it's like, this isn't fake. It's not a TV show you watched on Netflix.
Right,
They're
not LARPing. That's their job.
And I'm sitting here watching that video going like, I don't know that was a good shooting. I don't know that cop had to do that. I'm actually in the middle there. I don't know one way or the other, but I do know she shouldn't have been there in the first place.
She absolutely shouldn't have been in there in the first place. She shouldn't have put herself in a situation to do that. Should there have been some level of compliance? Maybe, but is it a justified shooting? Not likely.
They said the guy had internal bleeding. I don't know if he had internal bleeding. That's what CBS reported. But so if that's true,
video, everybody was trying to report on like two fucking angles about it, which showed him off to the side of the car. But he was recording, and he was definitely bumped. Was he hit? Was it life-threatening? Who knows? But it comes down to intent, right? Like, you don't know someone's intentions. It's just like these morons that are like, well, if somebody breaks into your house and you shoot them, you value your things more than you value someone else's life. Well, first of all, I don't know what their intent is to break into my house. It might not just be to steal shit. It might be to kill me. Who knows? But also, they value my things more than their life. So, fair trade. But in this case, no, like, it's not just a wrong place, wrong time kind of thing. Like, I think there needs to be some kind of restraint as well. But I think what's 100% wrong is the FBI took over the investigation from local police about the shooting, which it's not technically a federal matter. Yes, ICE is a federal agency, but I don't believe the FBI should be the one investigating this. And it is important to note, I actually heard this from John Kiriaku's podcast, that there doesn't appear to be a statute of limitations on murder. So even once Kash Patel is out in 3 years, they could still pursue a murder charge with the next administration. So I don't know what's going to happen there, but
I mean, there's this thing where it
started with a little bit of $9 billion fraud. So
okay, so there's this thing where you see a video of something that looks bad, and you have to have a hot take, and you have to defend the woman, or you have to defend the shooter, the cop. And it's so toxic to do that, because a week later we got other angles, and the other angles gave you kind of a different story. And people were like, where's the tire pointed? And you make up your mind that first, 5 seconds you see it, and you don't wait to see everything. And everything's so corrosive and toxic now that you just pick your side, and that's the side. You cannot be convinced otherwise. And I just think that, I don't know that ICE isn't a trained police force like NYPD. They're not. They are like doing things that maybe a normal police force wouldn't do. So they're trying to rip this woman out of the car, and she's freaking out, and her wife is over there like filming the whole thing, like egging her on. And then the cop is under pressure, and he got hit 8 months ago by somebody else,
And
and
equally egging on the ICE officer.
yeah,
You
like,
know, from that video, they were talking shit to him. So, like,
and he called her a fucking
tensions were
bitch after he shot
right.
her.
The
So,
tensions were already very high.
and it's
Rand Paul,
icy.
yeah, Rand Paul was actually on Joe Rogan. I was shocked by that. And he kind of talked about it a little bit, and he said, "Well, I can't like make a call on whether or not he was justified." He said, "That's not for me to say." He said, "I wouldn't want to influence a potential investigation or jury in the future by what I
He's
say
right.
here." So he definitely took the high road, which was smart. But he said, "I would have preferred to see local law enforcement be involved in the deportation instead of like ICE or something like that. Like they need to kind of defer some of that stuff to the police force." He said, "But then the problem is with that, you run into a sanctuary city thing where they will not, like they won't engage in that, where they're like, oh, we don't deport illegals here." You know what I mean?
Well, the local police force was also told do not cooperate with ICE, and
Correct.
then and now they want cooperate with ICE and the FBI because they want the information from the shooting, and they won't do it. They're not communicating or working together at all. But they weren't before. The only reason the only reason why this all probably came up at all was because of that Nick Shirley video that went viral, where I don't know if he was right. He could have been 50% right. I don't know. He just showed up to Leering daycare, and it was like, where are the kids? And everybody I know who's a normie who doesn't follow like anything, they all saw that video. And you know, it happened, and then 4 days later they're out there doing this now. And sure, they're gonna investigate fraud or whatever, and they're gonna let the process play out with the shooting. But
Dude, the amount of people comparing it to like George Floyd,
it's not
which
that at
also
all.
happened. Apparently, this shooting happened like a couple blocks from where George Floyd was killed.
Yeah.
And so people are making that comparison and everything. It's clearly not the same thing. But interestingly enough, it's a white woman, and people aren't burning down fucking Minnesota like they did after George Floyd was killed. So
Not yet. It's
no,
still
no,
it's cold there. Like
it could get that way. I think it's important to note that everyone's saying like, oh, you know, we're fixing this Minnesota shit, like with the fraud and everything. Yet Tim Walz is still resigning and not pursuing his fucking like next election. So
he was going to be the vice president of the United States, and now he's not even seeking re-election. And it makes you think there's so much more there to come out. There's going to be so many more names. There's going to be so much stuff. But to have, this is why it's good to kind of just find everybody despicable in this matter, because after the shooting, Department of Homeland Security, she was calling the woman a terrorist. I don't think that
yeah,
woman was a terrorist either.
no.
It was an American citizen who
No.
was pissed off at ICE.
But see, this is what happens when you have inflamed rhetoric, right? Like the left calling everybody Nazis, like even when they're far from it, like, and then you know the right starts to call these people domestic terrorists, and like you run into that, and then you have I forget who it was. Wasn't it there a congresswoman who said like white men are like the single greatest threat to America or some shit like that? Like,
I feel like that one gets trotted out of once a
right,
year.
but that's what I mean. Like when you say shit like that, you get shit like this. You know what I mean? Like it's just there's too much rhetoric where everyone's evil, everyone's like the worst of the worst, and all this other shit, and it causes fucking shit like this.
You know what really pisses me off is after all that happens, then weeks later, Tim Walz comes out with a statement that says we need to tone down the rhetoric. And they do that. They say we need to tone down the rhetoric after they cranked it up and fired people up. People there are radicalized now. They've seen the video, they've got the information that they want. There's no undoing that. You don't get to unravel that.
It's kind of funny because the governor here in Pennsylvania is kind of saying the same thing, but he's speaking out of both sides of his mouth. So he's like, we have to like work together, but then he's like saying, "Oh, I will always stand in opposition of right wing ideology." Like, then what the fuck are you talking about? Like, you can't have it both ways. Like, you have to find a compromise. And so the governor, like, he's just solely focused on his reelection bid right now, and probably running in 2028 from Pennsylvania. But like, this shit has to stop somewhere, and like, who is responsible? Um, Politicians are the first ones to say we need to tone down the rhetoric, but then they're the first ones to fucking call somebody a Nazi, or say that like white people are evil, or like whatever. I mean, the what was it, the tenant secretary or whatever under Mamdani has said that home ownership is a tool of white supremacy, and she's white. Like, some people are just so fucking stupid that they don't even realize what they're saying, or that it has consequences. And people on the left like to say, well, yeah, you're free to say whatever you want, but you're not free from the consequences. Well, this is fucking consequences to what people say. So, like, rubber meet road somewhere, you know?
It just really sucks because, like, I just sit back and go, man, you really, the by the way, that woman you mentioned is comes from a family that owns a $1.2 million house in Tennessee, I believe. So that kind of tells you all you need to know about that. Um, I'm just very irritated with. I don't see this ending.
No. It's important to note that affluent white people are the most abhorrent liberals that are out there, like, for sure.
Yeah, I just think that the state is overstepping, and I think the people are pushing back, and I think the people that are pushing back are doing it in the wrong way, and they're ultimately doing all of this to stop bad people that did bad things from being deported. But then ICE is like accidentally arresting an American citizen and then just dumping them off at Target. This shit sucks, man. All of it is terrible.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It just sucks, but it's what we got. Like, this is just what we got. You know what I mean? They were basically given a gloves off approach, and
They
this
did.
is what we get. And
Yeah.
the counter argument to that, people will say in defense of ICE, is like, even when it comes to like separating families, some right wing people will be like, well, like, when you get arrested, you're separated from your family, so like, we separate families during arrest, and like all this other shit.
They're enforcing the law. I mean, that's the thing, is like laws are made to be enforced, and that's exactly what they're doing. And they're going to do it real fucking hard.
One would argue that ICE is enforcing the law.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
But somebody said that like ICE isn't a law enforcement agency. Like, well, that's not true. Because if you are here illegally, you've broken the law, and they are deporting you, which is enforcing the law. You get deported for being here, like,
It's a
illegally.
federal
So,
state thing again, you know.
yeah.
And remember almost about a year ago, I told you that when you start those deportations, if you're deporting murderers, it's not going to look so bad. But once you start taking people who aren't like criminals but just are here illegally, once you start seeing images of that, it's going to turn public opinion, and I think that happened, and I think this is just the inevitable conclusion of that.
I think so. Yeah, I think you're probably spot on about that. I will say this administration doesn't care.
They don't give a fuck,
They've
and it's
seen,
not good.
well, one, Trump doesn't have to care. He can't win re-election, right? So he doesn't have to care. He's already lame ducking it. But two, he wants the visual of like people, illegals getting deported, to try and like turn people away. and he's had millions of people self-deport because they just didn't want to get into a situation with ICE and things like that. So we're seeing those kinds of things. To kind of tie this actually back into Venezuela, uh, Trump went on TV afterwards, and like obviously Venezuelans come here, and he could have just been like, you know, we got Maduro, now stop coming here. Like, things will get better. He could have just kind of taken that approach to it and been like, yeah, now we shouldn't see Venezuelans trying to come across the Mexican border to get up here.
Well, I think the border is no longer an issue right now. But I will say that, Kamala was sent down there to find the root causes of this.
And she did a bang up job.
And she did. And you know what I think one of the root causes was? Nicolas Maduro. And he's gone now. And I'm sure a lot of people would like to go back to their country. So.
I'm sure. And Kamala Harris just bought like a, $8.2 million house in
Malibu?
In Malibu. So, that's working out.
I mean, that rising sea is going to get her. She better be careful.
Think of all the trees she cut down with that stupid book she wrote. And Ghost wrote. She didn't write that shit.
No, they never do. But sorry, Palisades, that your house is all burned down a year ago. I guess.
So I think that is actually an interesting thing, because I sent you a message and our super fan, and I said Spencer Pratt is running for mayor of L.A. And you guys were like, "Who the fuck is that?" And I was like, he was on The Hills on MTV, like a long time ago. And he's saying a lot of important and interesting things against like Newsom and Karen Bass, because like they tried to pass a law that they had to clear out certain vegetation around their home, but I think Newsom got like probably some kind of exemption for it, and he's like, we should have. He's like, we have to clear our vegetation, but like you can't clear the vegetation, which leads to wildfires. Like he said that, which is true, and that's like an argument I've always made about fires in California that people just don't want to listen to. They're like, oh well, they cut federal funding for it. Okay, there's still state funding. Like you can burn your vegetation and things like that, and it leads to less wildfires. Like you can just do those things, like they're important. And he's saying stuff like that, so I actually think he could win if he keeps running his platform like that. It would be a very interesting thing to see him overthrow Karen Bass. Do I think he'd be a good mayor? Probably not, but he's got a platform, and he's a known figure just from being on TV and married to Heidi Montag or whatever.
Californians love, I do love celebrities. And yeah, Los Angeles isn't. It's always impossible to explain it without you have to actually go there to understand it. It's just not like any other major city in the country, because it's just not a tiny thing. It's not a Manhattan or a Chicago. It's just this enormous thing that is like geographically huge, and it's got valleys and hills, and so you've got these issues where like the fires happen, and California policy is bad, and we don't manage anything very well for I think optics. I think like Newsom saying like I'm against cutting down trees is like an optics, like good for you, man, and then everything burns down, and they're like, well, and people ignore it.
I said I was not for cutting them down, not burning them down.
Yeah, I'm like, oops, sorry, and like the homeless thing, it's like, man, let your freak flag fly. You can camp on the sidewalk. Who cares?
So and then they start fires. He came out and said, oh, well, homelessness went up everywhere, like 18% in the country, but in California it went down 9%.
I did not.
Yeah, he puts out videos on fucking TikTok and shit, and he goes, homelessness went down 9% in California overall. Where'd you ship them to, Gavin?
Yeah, what's a good answer to that is 0% homelessness, if that's what you're going to do. But this state has spent so billions and billions of dollars that has been unaccounted for on specifically homelessness. And nobody knows where it is, and nobody's interested in investigating if there's any fraud there. And I don't think it's not like going to Minnesota and just saying like showing up and just going like, Here it is on the paperwork. In California, it's way too big. There's way too many people, and you're just not going to get to the bottom of it. And nobody's interested in doing that. And I just think this state deserves what it's going to get because
You should be. That could be our big break here, buddy. Just start investigating fucking homeless fraud in fucking California.
And the other thing that the state's doing, because it's so goddamn stupid and short-sighted, is they're going to put something on the ballot in November that's going to put a retroactive tax on billionaires in this state, upwards of like 5% or whatever it is. And all the billionaires know this is happening. They're leaving the state. If you're out of state, they will still tax you for this budget year if you were a resident. And they're going to drive more people out of the state. And it's not going to work. And you know what they want to do? It's not going to be a one-time tax. That's what they're calling it. It's not going to be a one-time tax. They're going to make it a permanent thing. And we're not going to have anybody here who's a billionaire anymore. And it's just like...
You know, they supposedly do that when you immigrate out of Canada. They hit you with like a 50% tax of like everything you own.
Dude, California's crazy. If you move to another state, they will ask you for your registration fees. I don't know how they get them or if you have to pay them, but California will try to get their money from you if you move out of state.
Like, get fucked.
It's...
Just go register my car in the state that I'm moving to. Like, fuck off.
And it's going to happen over and over because the budget's too high. California's actually going to be... the federal government doesn't... It has a budget, but they could go in debt. States can't really do that. California is absolutely fucked. They have like a $25 billion shortfall right now. And we're trying to build a train. It's not going to work. And they're trying to revamp a building in the Capitol or something. And that's over budget. And we're just going to sit here and let it happen. We're just going to...
I'd have to find this video, but I saw it was like Jasmine Crockett was trying to say that all these blue states prop up these red states. And she specifically was like mentioning California, and this guy completely like shut her down, and he was like, yeah, that's not true at all. Like, he was, because I guess Gavin Newsom said that maybe he would withhold all of the federal taxes that the state sends to the federal government, which is a felony, tax evasion right there. I can't remember what his, like, how he dismissed like that notion, but so I'd have to find the video. But it was very interesting to see him be like, yeah, that's not true at all.
I don't know, man. California is just its own beast. It's just we drive car regulations, we drive climate, we have the power to do that, and it's just such a big state, and it's just too big to be governed by one man. And
would you say that the state should split into two and have North and South California, and then they each have a governor?
It makes more and more sense the longer I live here. I've been here my whole life, and yeah, I just think it's ungovernable, and also they are separate industries. North is Silicon Valley, South is Hollywood. These are huge industries. Like, they drive the world in some ways. And always...
The movie hasn't been made in Hollywood for like 10 years.
No, but the corporations like Netflix and yada yada are there. So, even though Netflix is kind of both. But, you know, it's like, there's so much that comes from here, and we take it for granted, and we're going to drive everybody out, and we'll get what we deserve, hard and good. So... whatever. I don't know, man.
Eventually, you will move out of California. I foresee it.
I don't think I'll be here forever.
Pittsburgh's waiting for you, Aaron.
Pittsburgh's sweet. Good. I'd be Pittsburgh.
We just spent $1.5 billion renovating our airport. Basically, all they did was take away a tram and get us some new like X-ray machines for TSA. $1.5 billion.
Not the worst airport I've been to, despite that.
Well, now it's new, so it looks a little bit different than when you last saw it.
That's cool. Meanwhile, LAX is like a shithole, and like they're trying to build a tram, and they're over budget. it just goes on and on here. Like I could just bring up endless examples where like something's not happening. Roads, there's highways here that have been under construction for like over 2 years, and they're death traps. And you drive through them, and you're like, holy fuck! Like you're literally like this far away from a concrete barrier, and you're in a 2-lane traffic, and you're blocked on both sides, and it's just like a death trap here everywhere you go.
So here in Pittsburgh, the natives of Pittsburgh, I would say, are really pissed off because, or at least the people who live down in the city, we are getting the NFL draft, I think, this summer.
Good fucking luck.
Yes.
That's maybe a weird place to do it. I don't know.
The city's spending billions of dollars renovating downtown Pittsburgh because of the draft, something they wouldn't have done otherwise. And so people are like pretty pissed about it because it takes forever for them to like do other things. So do me a favor and Google something like Pittsburgh bus sinkhole and look up images. This has become a meme. So when I worked down in the city, you heard like a rumbling and a tumbling, and turns out a city bus fell into a sinkhole that opened up on a pretty major street down in the city. And it became this like meme because there was pictures that hit the internet of the bus sticking out of the hole.
Yeah, it's sticking up like at a 90-degree angle.
It's a giant hole. Dude, that hole was behind a fence for probably almost 2 years before they fixed it.
Jesus.
Like 2 years of this gaping fucking hole just sitting in the middle of the city that swallowed a bus. And it took them like 2 years to fix it. But they can go ahead and renovate the entire downtown for the NFL draft.
Look at San Francisco, man. Xi Jinping came to town and they cleaned that place up.
Yeah, they cleaned all the poop out of there. I was just talking about that recently.
Took 1 week. Took like a week, and they were like, the streets were clean and clear. They repainted everything. It was really just great. So we were welcoming our communist dictators here, and you're welcoming communist dictators from the NFL in Pittsburgh. That was a joke, but
don't forget New York. Communist dictators in New York.
New York
to the prison system and the mayor's office.
New York is one for another pod. I can't wait to figure out how that all works. Do you have any light items?
I have one.
What's your light item?
This is a different podcast for us because typically our first podcast of the new year is
bend the rules.
Movies podcast. But we aren't doing that yet. There were some movies with late entries. I believe that you and I are looking at. Our lists are made but not tailored yet, I believe.
That's correct.
And we probably want to catch one or two more of these 2025 movies. I will tell you, I started watching Eden while I was on a plane recently. And that's not going to make the list. So,
sweet.
I only saw like 20 minutes of it, but that's not going to make the list. So, given that we are in a new year, but not doing our normal podcast, I would like to bring back an oldie but a goodie in Conspiracy Theory Corner.
Okay.
So, I recently heard this conspiracy theory, and shout out to our super fan because he's been dying to hear a new Conspiracy Theory Corner. And so here we go. This has been upvoted a bunch on Reddit. Videos are going viral of this. And so I heard this one, and I find this one to be interesting. So I really wanted to kind of bring this one up. So supposedly, on August 12th of 2026, at 10:33 a.m. Eastern Time, so 7:33 a.m. Pacific Time, Earth will lose gravity for 7 seconds. Total gravity for 7 seconds. Allegedly, NASA knows about this, and due to a November 2024, a secret NASA document was leaked, and it's called Project Anchor. So the government is allegedly building secret underground bunkers with about $89 billion, and they estimate that the deaths of 40 million people, crumbling infrastructure and failure, and economic destruction will be wrought due to 7 seconds of interrupted gravity time.
So
Question for you.
go on, yeah, go on.
Are you strapping yourself down?
I'm thinking about it.
Because think of how, do you have high ceilings
Yeah,
in your home?
I do.
So imagine that you're floating up to your ceiling, and after 7 seconds, you just fall down and hit the floor.
Yeah.
What if you're not at home? Could you imagine being outside and gravity just ceases for 7 seconds? How high you would fly in 7 seconds, do you think?
I
If
don't
you had
know.
to guess, how high do you think you would fly if there was no gravity for 7 seconds?
The answer is not at all, right?
No,
Are you?
if gravity ceases to exist for
I mean,
7 whole seconds.
the moon doesn't have gravity. You don't really. I mean, it has some gravity, but like you don't fly off of the surface of the moon, right?
Yeah, so we're talking complete zero gravity here.
I think you just float. I think you float in place unless you're moving.
Yeah, until gravity kicks back in after 7 seconds.
I don't know.
Because some of the estimates were like you could get up to like 20 feet high.
I suppose if you
like
jumped,
20 to 40 feet.
if you jumped
high
at
in the
that
air.
time, but that's a really interesting little. That's interesting. There's
So like
most conspiracy theories don't have evidence, so what's the
right.
evidence
The
this is
thing
going to
is
happen?
that you would have to like strap yourself down.
But if you're strapped down on something, you could hurt yourself even worse.
No, but you would have to like legitimately
Anchor.
like anchor yourself down. Like you would have to put something in the ground to strap yourself to the floor
I
so that
mean,
you don't float any higher. But they're estimating 40 million deaths. Now, it doesn't seem like a lot, but in 7 seconds, that would be a lot of people to die at one time.
well, not to spoil Pluribus for anybody, and I won't, but there is an element of that show where when something happens to one person, it happens to everybody, and there is a body count associated with it. And so in that universe, it would make a lot of sense that 40 million people would die. That would actually be a low number, I think.
Probably, yeah.
Well, thank you for that conspiracy. I honestly did not know you were fucking going there.
It's different than the other ones I've done. That's for
Well,
sure.
usually they're a lot older. This one's in the future, so
Yeah. So
more
you might
more
see
to
it
look
coming.
forward to. Well, um, I don't know that I have a light item.
Well, you've been playing Arc Raiders.
That is the light item. That game is really, really, really good. And it didn't click for me immediately, and I don't think it clicks for everybody immediately. Once you get into the rhythm of it, it's really good. And the social aspect of it is what I think pushes it over the edge, because
It's a slog to start, for sure.
it is a slog, but the interactions you have with real people are it's people. You don't It's unpredictable. So you never know if you're going to find somebody who's going to go like, "Hey buddy, just checking this out." You go, "Okay, I'm checking it out too." And they could shoot you. And you just trust them?
And so actually the CEO and developers have said they're like that was the point. They actually said that PvP play in that game is not inherently the point. But they opened up PvP because initially it was supposed to just be PvE.
Yeah.
And like you couldn't attack each other, but they opened it up to PvP and it actually changed the game because there's a tension that's inherently built in by the fact that you come across somebody and you can emote and like talk to each other via mic and for people who don't know, and you can just say, "Oh yeah, I'm friendly," or you can emote and say like, "Don't shoot," and shit like that. Well, you could be like, "Oh, okay, like we'll run together," and then they just shoot you in the fucking back. And
Yep.
so early on it was very tough because you like people would just do that kind of shit and they would like rat you or like people camp extracts and things like that. Well, they added in aggression based matchmaking, which was cool, so that like they keep track of like how you were downed and like if you shoot players and down players and stuff like that, and then they put you in like sweaty lobbies. But apparently if you don't really engage in PvP and you go and play like solos, you meet like the friendliest people. Like it's so weird. Like people have just dropped me blueprints, like these really rare blueprints, and I was like, oh, thanks. Like that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I Stella Montes is the one that comes to mind because that was so toxic when I first went there, and then now I can just run through it freely and never have an issue. I do want to say I have this one story because this is like a game where like you just get stories, right? So I was running around and a guy who was like not equipped with anything, he had a free loadout, came up behind me and he just took a shot at me, and I was like, "What the fuck?" Because like I haven't been shot at in a long time. So I turned around and I just blasted this guy. I'm like, "The fuck are you doing?" I just murdered him, and then he leaves, and I'm like, "That was so weird." And then I was going to the extract, and there was a guy there who was downed, and I didn't have a defibrillator, so I ended up opening the door for him. I helped him inside while he was down, and then I helped him get out, and it was all in the same round. And like that's kind of how I've been playing it. Is like I won't mess with you at all. I'll actually help you.
So I experienced actually something similar. During one of the trials, you had to like search these probes or whatever, like call in like a cargo thing or whatever, and then you had to like search the probe. Well, I accidentally just like ran up on this guy, and he stopped and like searching the probe and started like shooting at me. I got away from that like thing, and I started shooting at him because I'm like, fuck this guy. Like if he's gonna attack me, like I healed up and I started attacking him. Well, then I guess he got downed by like an arc or something. At like he ran off and got, but he downed somebody else. Well, there's an augment, like or backpack, whatever, that's like called Survivor, and basically if you just like stand still, you'll survive until somebody comes to like knock you out or revive you, and so like you won't really bleed out. And the guy was like calling out, but I couldn't find him, and I'm like, dude, I can't find you. Like and I didn't have a defib anyway, and he was like, come here, come here. He's like, take my stuff. Like, I want you to take my stuff because if you don't have a defib, he's like, there's no one else around. He's like, unless you have a Raider hatch key, because there was one of those Raider hatches right nearby. He was like, I'm screwed, so just take my stuff. And I was like, I actually have a Raider hatch key. Like I brought it in for some reason in my safe pocket thing, and I was like, he was like, dude, if you open that Raider hatch for me, he goes, I'll friend you, and he's like, what are you looking for? I'll drop you stuff. And I was like, you know what, man, it's all good. And I was like, come over here. I opened the Raider hatch for him and let him go.
Hmm.
And then I continued on the round, like I wasn't done. And so I was like, hey, here you go, man. Like enjoy. And then
I
I friended the guy, but I haven't talked to him since.
I like that. There's so many of those. Like if you're magnanimous, I also just had like a guy on Stella Montes who was down, and I couldn't help him, and he was like he just kept asking me to take him out, and he could kill himself. I'm like no, I'm not doing it.
Well, so here's the thing, because if you do it, that will fuck up your algorithm because it'll show that you knocked him out.
And I don't want to. I was
So
like, no, I'm not. I'm not
that'll
doing
fuck
it.
up like your PvP algorithm. So like you kind of don't do it. But there are people that come up and I'll say something, or like I'll do the don't shoot thing or whatever, and they're sketchy and weird, and like they're running around all weird, like watching me too much. So I'm like, fuck you, and I turn around and I just blast them. I'm like, I'm not like I'm not having you shoot me in the back because that's happened to me a bunch of times. So like I'm not doing it, and because like I had a guy come up and kill me, and I'm like, dude, what the fuck? I was fighting like a bastion or something, and he just comes up and like blasts me in the back, and I was like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? And he was like, just being a dick, and knocked me out, and I was like, fuck you, dude. But you now like it's really rare that you run into that. playing solos, people are just like they just drop shit for you, dude.
It's a
Like,
fun social experiment because
yeah,
you see like 99% of the people you run into are actually pretty cool, and like if somebody else is fighting and they're kind of on their heels, I'll go over and help them, or I'll shoot from a mile away. And
dude, one match, I was fighting a Bastion like by myself, and I was like, fine, I could handle it, but I was literally just doing it with like an anvil and no like grenades or anything, so I was just like shooting its legs. And these guys come up and they help me like destroy it, and they were like, oh, you can take all the stuff, like we just wanted to help you. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then like five other guys came over. We left to the very very last elevator with like 12 of us all running in a group, and we took out like every single arc that was on the map, large ones, small ones, like it didn't matter. If something came by, everybody boom just start blasting at it, and nobody shot anybody. We just 12 dudes running around in a group, and then we all exfilled together. It was like the wildest thing I'd ever seen.
it's it's just a game full of that, and it's such a cool experience. And there's not anything else like it. And for that reason alone, it's like, I have a game of the year list. I haven't finalized it yet, but man, I waited way too long to get into that game. I should have gotten into it sooner because, yeah, I don't know. You said
Well,
you were
actually,
like,
it actually probably worked out for you because prior to the
yeah,
expeditions coming out, like more people were dicks, and then once the expeditions were coming, they were like everybody got reset to zero if you did an expedition. But I don't have enough time in my life to devote to doing the expedition and resetting my character to zero. So I was like, I'm not doing that. Like I'm not even at a max level yet, so why would I do it? But now people are getting a bit ready for the second expedition. I think it shows up the end of February or something. But
well,
fun game.
it's really cool. I think what I'm going to do now is just go through my top games, the games that I liked this year, not in any order, and just run through them really quick if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Okay, so I think my game of the year is actually going to be Shinobi. There was a remake, Shinobi 4, Shinobi whatever, the next Shinobi. It was just an incredible game. Loved it. The other one that's the other front runner is Doom: The Dark Ages, which I thought was a fucking awesome game. And then the rest of these I can give or take. Power Wash Simulator 2, you'll hate me for that. I finished it. It was everything I wanted.
What was the last thing you had to wash?
A cave with gemstones that opened up to other like caves and stuff. And there's like a lot of cats on there, and you can pet the cats. They all have names. Battlefield 6, Split Fiction, Borderlands 4, Arc Raiders, Outer Worlds 2, Ball X Pit, Metroid Prime 4, Donkey Kong Bonanza, Blueprints, Ninja Gaiden, PGA Tour 2K25, Keeper, and the Tony Hawk 3 and 4 remaster. So
There you go.
those are the games I liked this year.
There you go. I see. I don't play that many. Like I couldn't come up with a list like that. It's solely Arc Raiders for me. Like that came out, and that only came out really like what 2 months ago,
Yeah,
3 months ago maybe.
right at the end there.
And it's just that good. I mean, dude, they had sold 12 million copies, and the game was only $40, which a game is normally 70. So like they did pretty good on that. And the devs are awesome, dude. They fix everything. So like one of the things that they did, they put in what they called a hot fix to fix people somehow like phasing through doors that were supposed to be locked with like keys, like special keys to get some of the best loot. And so what they did is when people phase through the door, the whole room catches on fire and you die.
That's
So instead of
crazy.
just fixing the phasing, they let you phase through the door and then you just catch on fire and die.
I'll contrast it with Star Wars Outlaws, which was added to Game Pass recently, and I wasn't going to play it when it came out for a number of reasons. It doesn't have anything to do with... I hate Star Wars in general. So I downloaded it and popped it in, and I was checking it out, and I was like, what the fuck is wrong with the way these characters look. Like everybody looks really bad and weird. And then I went online to read the discourse about that game when it came out, and I was reminded of how bad Ubisoft is across the board. And that game sold so poorly, and I was reminded that there's a reason why Arc Raiders was successful, and it had nothing to do with like the Star Wars license or the Arc Raiders being what it is. Arc Raiders is just a game that the people who developed it care about, and Star Wars Outlaws was just an agenda with a Star Wars IP.
Yeah, 100%.
So, all right, buddy. Well, I'm gonna go, and you're gonna go to do whatever you're gonna do. So, I guess fuck off.
Excellent. Don't forget
All
to
right.
name the podcast.
I won't forget to. And your audio's been bad the whole time. I don't know if it's gonna come out at the end okay, but we'll see.
It sounds okay here, so we'll see what it sounds like. But
All right. Well,
cool.
have a good one, buddy.
Later, pal.
Bye.